I met with my sponsor 2 days ago, and she said a couple things that blew my mind and gave me a perspective on something that has been extremely helpful. I was telling her about the details of the last 2 times that I binged, which was now a couple weeks ago, and she's trained in behavior just like I'm trained in behavior. I taught special ed, and then I got my master's in administration. So that's all about behavior and leadership. So technically I'm qualified to lead behavior. So is she. She is a pastor, and she taught special ed. So we started talking about the ABCs of behavior, the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. What the behavior was, we know what the consequence is, but what preceded the behavior? What was before the behavior? And then what was even before that? And when we dove into why I binged, she gave me some clarity on something that I am so excited to share with you. And I've decided to go ahead and take what she talked to me about Monday and what I heard my own pastor talk about Sunday evening, combine them into somewhat of a little, definitely a visual, definitely an illustration, but really a ceremony that I was not planning on doing today, but I think I'm going to. So here we go. I'm going to take these groceries in. I'm going to get a couple things together. I'll be back with you. I talked about these in one of my other videos. These are the Pop-Tarts I just brought in from the car. They are going into the toilet. I have lots of sugar and flour in my house, but I don't want to be around Pop-Tarts anymore. We have a rough history. I've turned to these. They've been part of binges for me in the past. Now they go in the toilet. Neuro pathways have been laid, and these are now on my no list. Yay! Took care of that! Groceries are put away. We are restocked. So this is tons and tons of Bright Line foods. We go through lots and lots of deli meat because we make big old 14-ounce salads almost every night. Something that I love, one thing that I really love about Bright Line eating is almost nothing goes bad. So like all over my refrigerator, here's little beans. Look at this, these itty bitty bits of fruit. They will not go bad because I'll get a plate or a bowl and put it on my scale and just keep tossing fruit on the plate until I get to 6 ounces. So anyways, so many things that I love about Bright Line eating. I keep these in the freezer frozen and sprinkling them on my salads. Pretty soon I'm gonna take this and cook it down and put it on a plate, a whole bunch of it with some mozzarella cheese, 2 ounces of mozzarella cheese and 2 ounces of marinara sauce and 2 ounces of green olives, and make probably some nutritional yeast that will be sort of like Parmesan cheese, and that is how I will make a pizza. I learned that from a lady on YouTube. Put that in the microwave for long enough to make those get mixed with the cheese and get, I don't know, crunchy like crust. So, hooray for Bright Line food. Okay, so here I go again. I'll tell you what I'm up to. First of all, I want you to know, again, I prayed before this. I prayed that God would take over and just let me say the right things to the right people. So if you're watching this, I believe you are one of the right people to see this for whatever reason. I don't know. Today is October 28th, 2020. My 1 year with Bright Line Eating was October 24th. So I'm just a few days after my 1 year. there's some Halloween decorations for you. We do live in kind of an old, very old, 1829, our house was built. So people that have lived here before thought maybe it was haunted. So that, fortunately, is not what my house normally looks like. But we've got some Halloween decorations going on. Here's a little bit of my kitchen. Okay. I am about to bury 100 pounds of sugar and flour. It's starting to get dark out. Sorry. It's starting to get dark out, and it's raining. But I'm going to go for it. I'll tell you why I'm about to do that in just a second. But I'll tell you right now why I'm about to do it right now, and that's because a couple reasons. I don't want to wait any longer. I'm excited about this ceremony that's about to take place, and it's just me here. I thought I would do it this weekend when I had kids with me to help be my cameramen, but with 5 kids, I find myself somewhat spontaneous at times. So, my mother-in-law just now took my 3 little ones for a couple hours, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to go for it and do this right now. So, here's what I'm about to do. I'm about to bury 100 pounds. Now, what is amazing to me is that so far I have lost 75.8 my first year with Bright Line Eating, but a total of right around 86 pounds. So I'm just a few pounds away from losing 100 pounds. And that makes it all the more sentimental, I guess, to bury this 100 pounds, because it is heavy, let me tell you. It's really hard to believe that I used to stand up and put my feet on the floor and carry that weight with me every step of the way. So it's really amazing. Okay, here's why I'm going to bury this sugar and flour, which is my drug. Sugar and flour are by definition drugs. And because, and I said this in my other videos, but if it starts out as a plant and it ends up a powder, that refining process turned it into a dose-dependent drug. So sugar and flour are both drugs. Forgive me, the lighting is driving me crazy, but in this house, bad lighting is about all I have to choose from. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. I heard Joel Osteen talk one time about sin in our life, or bad situations, or negative things we want to get away from. And he talked about burying it. And he said the worst thing we can do is then dig it back up, because we all know that anything buried, dug back up, stinks. So bury it and don't dig it back up. So then Sunday night, my own pastor was talking about burying it, and he was jokingly talking about a preacher that used to say he'd come into church on Sunday mornings, he'd leave all his sins at the altar, but then before he left to go back home, he would pick them up and bring them home so that he never lost track of them. And I think we do that at times. I know I do. Just kind of, we know that it's a sin, we know that it's not good for us, but boy, we cling to it for a variety of reasons, including how good it feels, or how good it feels. So, like I said in my other videos, I am about to do a little teaching, a little preaching, and hopefully a little reaching. But I also don't want this to be very long. So, we'll see. So my own pastor started talking about burying it. So I keep hearing about burying it. And then my pastor started talking about that as Christians, we are to move, transition, and change. Move, transition, and change. There's talk all over the Bible about moving, get moving. Jesus in Matthew 28:18 through 20, the great the Great Commission says move. He says go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So Jesus tells us to move. So part of our, just not just Christians, just part of our human experience is moving, transitioning, and changing. So then I went to meet with my sponsor on Monday. And I was telling her about the last time I binged, which was now like 14 days ago. And I was just explaining very lightheartedly that I had only gotten 4 hours of sleep the night before. And so for me, exhaustion can easily end up in overeating because my body gets so worn out and demands extra fuel. But she said, what happened before that? And I said, well, before that, I had this really big day and I was really wound up and I stayed up late and one of my kids needed help with his homework. And at 11:30 at night, I told this child of mine who's been watching me for a year lose weight and fight this battle. And I told this child of mine, I said, Satan's the Lord of silence. He knows that. He's heard me say it. I said, I want you to know I'm feeling very, very tempted. The other 5 were asleep. My husband was asleep and the other 4 kids were asleep. The house was quiet. And I told this child of mine, I'm feeling very, very tempted to binge. And I said, I'm telling you that because I don't want to. So I'm going to tell you that so that I won't. And he said, oh, don't do it. I said, I won't. I promise. So let's get to bed. I'll go to bed. One of the reasons I used to binge at night is because it would help me fall asleep. Some people feel awful with a full belly. I'm like a bear. I can just fill my belly and crawl into bed and fall asleep instantly, instead of being like wound up and get a second wind and stay up all night long. So I told him that. Then the next day, I thought I'd be able to get a nap, and I wasn't able to get a nap. I went to a doctor's office, dentist appointment, and literally, I counted them. I ran 15 other errands with between 1 and 4 kids with me. I just ended up cross-eyed. I was absolutely exhausted. Almost felt like delirious. I could tell I needed food. I did not get the nap I thought I'd get. And to the point where a lady at the store was like, excuse me, ma'am, were these your keys? And I was like, yeah, they are my keys. I was like, woo-wee. So I thought, I'm going to let myself eat. And when I say eat, I mean eat. So I binged that day. I just ate and ate and ate whatever I wanted to eat. And then the next day I was right back at it. But the next day I thought, I only have 2 days under my belt. Food sounds good. And went ahead and ate that. So those 2 days, that was the last time that I've binged. But when I was sharing that with her, she said, this is an identity issue. And I remember Susan Pierce Thompson talking about that. Susan Pierce Thompson tells us, she says, people always tell you need to make a lifestyle change. If you want this to be lasting change, it needs to be a lifestyle change. But what does that mean? How do you change your lifestyle? And you change your lifestyle by changing your identity. You literally become someone that doesn't say, I can't, but I don't. And my sponsor helped me to realize, she said, my husband would never be tempted to rob a bank. She said, I in particular would never be tempted to be, she just listed a couple things that her and her husband it wouldn't cross their minds. It would not even cross their minds. Just like it doesn't cross my mind to go hop on a horse and rope cattle, or, when I see a sword, it does not cross my mind to swallow it. I've never been a sword swallower. There are things that do not cross my mind because I don't identify with that. It has nothing to do with me. I don't do it. I've never been tempted to rob a bank. I've never been tempted to kidnap a child. There's things that they don't cross my mind because they're not part of my identity. And she said, for you to tell your son that you're tempted to binge, she said, you've not yet embraced or created an identity that says you don't do that. And that was such a light bulb moment for me. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. I used to go to the University of Arkansas, and I worked at the athletic club there. I was not very athletic. I was like super overweight and super pregnant. But I was sitting there, and I remember these guys, there was like this hiking, this like outdoor shop right there, and I was sitting there and I had bought all this candy. I'd bought all this candy to sit there and eat and get me through that shift. Again, using food as my drug unknowingly. So I remember I had like these, it was like Starburst or something, colorful, and this guy walked in to rent a kayak. And I offered some of it to him. I said, here, you want some of this? And he said, no, I don't eat that stuff. And then he walked off. And I was stunned. I was literally like, what do you mean you don't eat this stuff? Like, who doesn't eat candy? And that just has always stuck with me. And now I get it. He just doesn't ingest that type of non-food junk. So my sponsor really inspired me to start thinking about, if I have moments where I'm really tempted to binge, then that's still part of my identity, and I don't want it to be. No more than someone that would rob a bank, or just any other host of things that would never cross my mind. Like, it's not something I struggle with. So if I want to lay this down and let go of this and hand it over, then what better way to do that than to bury it? So thank you, Joel Osteen. Thank you, Matt, my pastor. Thank you, Robin, my sponsor. Thank you, everyone, for inspiring me to just bury it and never dig it up again. So today is day 369 of Bright Line Eating, a perfectly imperfect journey. But I want to bury it. I want to bury sugar and flour and be done with them. And not only that, but I want to bury binging. I want to bury, even if it doesn't have sugar and flour in it, like I've talked about in my other videos, if I ate a 5-gallon bucket of healthy foods, I could still get that high. I could still get that calm. I could still get that drunk on food feeling. So not only do I want to bury sugar and flour, but I want to bury binging. And I told a friend of mine, I said, you know what? I'm going to bury sugar and I'm going to bury flour. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer, too. I've got a list of people that are just with me on this journey. My mom, love you. My husband, love you. Okay. I was telling Jennifer, if I want to bury sugar and flour, and I buried a 5-pound bag, and I said, I just don't feel like that represents binging, though, because I said, I feel like I need to get a 5-gallon bucket of Bright Line foods and bury them, and I definitely don't want to do that. I don't like wasting. You saw that in the beginning. And she said, well, then get 50 pounds and let that represent binging. Let that represent the volume so I want to bury sugar, flour, and binging. And by the way, I don't mind using the B word. I've never been diagnosed with any kind of eating disorder, but I know my eating is disordered. I know I have disordered eating. I know that because of what I've done to my brain, getting myself so highly addicted to sugar, I know, I read somewhere once, somebody said following a program like this keeps us safe from our bizarre eating. This author wrote the word bizarre, and I was like, yes, bizarre. It's bizarre. It's like, has nothing to do with appetite. No. I'm so impressed when I watch people that just don't have these kind of issues. They can just eat a little. A guy today, when I was buying this 50-pound bags of sugar and flour at the Mennonite grocery store down the road from me, he bought himself an ice cream. He's just out and about by himself. This is a friend of mine that I know from the produce auction down the road. He bought this little ice cream that was like the size. It was smaller than a Dixie cup, and I was like, who gets ice cream that little? I was just so impressed, but I don't know. I don't struggle with everything, so maybe there's people that are impressed with me with how much I don't struggle with things that they do. So my point is, we all struggle. So that guy with the small ice cream, he's got something going on. I know he does. Okay. So I'm going to bury 100 pounds of my drug in a minute. All right. So lifestyle change, identity. I'm looking at these notes here. I'm making my way. Part of me did not want to do this. Okay, I do want to do it, but there's this little fear of what if I bury it and then dig it back up? What if I bury it and then binge next week? Well, you know what? I might, but this ceremony doesn't hurt. And by the way, the sugar costs $34. The flour costs $19.50. Let's add that up. 34 plus 20, 54, 53.50. That is less than my husband and I would spend if we went to a restaurant and stuffed ourselves. So I'm not worried about the money. If I bury this and bury it for good, it's going to save me all kinds of money in the long run. So I started thinking, I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit scared of doing this and making some big ceremony of it and then having a hiccup, a moment. But I'm not going to be scared because I don't want to be living in fear. Instead, I'm going to trust and obey. There's no better way to be happy in Jesus than to trust and obey. And the truth is I might dig it up, but boy, will it stink. Oh, man. Come to think of it, it will really, really stink after this. And this is not even short, and I want it to be short, but, well. It'll stink. That would really stink. I'm setting myself up. This is a good thing. I'm setting myself up to make hiccups worse. That's good. That's a good thing. Okay, 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. So I'm just casting my anxieties on him, and I'm trusting that in his strength, not mine, I can do this. 1 Peter 5:8. Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:9. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that your brothers throughout the world are undergoing the same kind of sufferings. You guys, I was not even going to read verse 9, but how sweet is that? I know there are some of you dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with, so we are in this together, my friend. Love you. Okay. So I'm going to make an identity change. I'm going to say, I don't binge anymore. When it's 11:30 at night, that thought is not going to cross my mind anymore. It might, and I'll say, well, that's crazy. I don't do that. I used to, but there's a lot of things I used to do that I don't do anymore. Like, I haven't drank a soda in 2 years. I have not chewed a piece of gum, and I used to be the person everybody came to for gum, because if I had less than 2 packs in my purse, I was running low. I have not chewed a piece of gum since October 24th, 2019, because even though I've binged a few times, I don't binge on chewing gum. Trust me, when I'm like, the clock's ticking, I better hurry up and eat, I'm not chewing my way through some gum. So I don't chew gum anymore. I have a little sneaky replacement for that. I got cinnamon toothpicks that I keep in my purse if I need something like that. Okay, bear with me. I'm kind of making sure I'm not forgetting anything here. I need like little elevator music for you. Okay, so I'm ready to bury it. And it is pouring down rain. You know what? I'm going to do myself a favor, and I'm going to go outside, and I'm just going to find a hole. I was going to dig a hole, but we are getting water lines laid right now. There's holes. There's a lot of holes out in my yard. I hope I don't bury it somewhere that, like, is a problem, and they have to dig it up tomorrow. And then my husband and my in-laws are going to be like, why is there 100 pounds of sugar? Why is there a loaf of bread growing in your backyard? Okay. So I'm not going to fear that I'm going to dig it back up. 2 Corinthians 5:17. The old is gone, the new is here. I'm feeling it, you guys. I'm feeling like the new's here. I hit my 1 year. I'm ready to just roll with this. I'm tired. I'm tired of going around and around. So Ephesians 4:22 through 24. I think I can do it. You know what? I'm not even gonna. Okay. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. There you go. I think I got that right. It's on a little card. I practice that every morning for the month of October. All right. So, moving right along. I'm going to trust God's strength, not mine. I tell everybody it is the fruit of the Spirit, not the fruit of Emily. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I taught that to a group of kids once. There's 9 fruit of the Spirit. The first 3 have 1 syllable. The second 3 have 2 syllables. The third 3 have 3 syllables. That always helps me. But this is the fruit of the Spirit, not the fruit of Emily. What a relief. I know for certain I am not strong enough to do this on my own. No. And that final fruit of the Spirit, self-control, that's what I'm after. I love how Paul says in, I believe it's 2 Corinthians 9:27. He says, sorry, you guys. I really was not planning on sharing this. But there it is. Sorry about that. Okay, 2 Corinthians 9:27, Paul says, "No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize." I want self-control. I want to practice what I preach, which is surrendering to God and being obedient to Him. And for this season of my life and the rest of my life, that is a very physical thing. Like Paul says, I beat my body and make it my slave. Paul tells us to take every thought captive, and I want to be sure to take every craving captive as well. So, the enemy has moved on. There's a lot of things he doesn't even bug me about anymore. He doesn't talk to me about sodas. He doesn't talk to me about gum. So that's proof that we can change. He's still after me, but in different ways, and I'm ready to just get him off my back about this. So I'm going to be confident in God, not in myself, in His strength. And keep in mind that He dwells within me. So everywhere I go, He goes. Behaviors come and they go and they start and they stop and they can stop. So it is possible for me to quit binging. Move, transition, change. So we can be so intimidated by change, and we can really resist it, and we can really hate it, especially when we are not the ones controlling it. But the good news is we can change. And a lot of times we really want change. And so many of us want to lay down these things we're addicted to. And we can. And that's really, really exciting. In fact, change, our bodies are constantly changing on a cellular level. We're not even in the same bodies that we were in years ago because the cells have regenerated over and over and over. Obviously, we don't look like the babies that we were born as. So we're constantly changing. we can accept the change that it's the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And by the grace of God, our behaviors are something that we can change. That's really, really, really good news. We can change. We are changing. And we want to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. I used to tell my high school students when I was a youth minister, as long as we're human, we're going to be like vehicles that need the wheels realigned. So you've got to keep your hand on the wheel, because if you let go, if you disengage, there's no such thing as neutral. You're not just going to hang out, you're going to roll backwards. So you got to keep your hands on the wheel as long as you're human, because if you let go, you're going to veer off in the wrong direction. Out in, left field, out in the middle of nowhere, lost. And the further you get out there, the further you have to, to come back. But anyways, just like a vehicle that needs their wheels realigned, our human nature is going to pull us in the wrong direction. So we're constantly moving. We want to make sure that's in the right direction. And as we are open to changing and becoming closer to God, that is sanctification, which is the action of making and declaring something holy. And the definition of holy is just simply something set apart. So I realized a couple weeks ago, I don't want to eat what this world has to offer. I don't want to consume it. I don't want to need it. I don't want to crave it. I just read that in the book of Ephesians. Okay, I am not finding it now. If I find it, I'll put it in the description below this video. But bright line foods are nothing but nutrition. And that's what I want to eat. I want to eat and consume what God created for me to eat and consume, and not need or depend on what this world has to offer, which is a whole lot of processed stuff that comes in shiny packages with excellent marketing geared especially towards children. 1 John 4:4, he who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. I believe that's right. First John chapter 4, verse 4. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. And the one who is in the world is Satan. The one who's ruling this world is the enemy. We are not home yet. The best is yet to come. And as long as I'm here, I want to make a conscious effort to be holy and set apart, including and especially with what I put in this temple of mine. 1 Corinthians 6:19, that we are a temple of the Holy Spirit. First Corinthians 6:19, did you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, and this is verse 20, honor God with your body, which is definitely what I want to do. It's not easy, and it's just a little bit, you can almost tell I'm not like super overjoyed. This is I'm excited to do this, but I take it so seriously. There's almost I almost feel not solemn, because it's not sad. I think solemn kind of has a sad connotation, if I'm right about that, but sober. It's sobering. It's really sobering to commit to something like this especially publicly, because I want to have integrity. I want to be good to my word. Okay. Final thought here. Let's let love be the driving force behind change. And God is love. Love your body and love your life so much that you want it to get even better, not just better. So don't say, this is what I tell my kids, don't say I want things to be better. I want you to add the word even in there. I want things to be even better. That means that you appreciate how good they already are. I love the quote, you'll never have more of something until you appreciate how little of it you have. You want strength? Well, recognize that you have some. You want patience? Recognize that you already have some. Recognize that there is an ember burning. You don't have to rub two sticks together and make it magically appear. It's already there. So I want things to be even better than they already are. I want my self-control to be even stronger than it already is. I'm going to appreciate how good things already are. Isaiah 64:8. Yet you, O Lord, are our Father. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hands. He is the potter, we are the clay, and I want to be moldable. So, I'm going to say that again. Isaiah 64:8. Yet you, O Lord, are our Father. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hands. So, I really wasn't sure if I was going to share this story or not, but I'm going to. My binging has evolved over the years, and about 10 years ago at night, it was such a free-for-all. It was just like a garbage disposal. It was like I did good, quote-unquote good all day long. And then at night, the ghrelin, the hunger hormone ghrelin would kick in. My kids would finally fall asleep. Ghrelin is a hormone that causes us to be hungry. It would kick in at night like it does, especially for women, and causes us to have, especially crave carbs and want to eat. And so I tell women, don't think that you have some terrible character flaw if you eat late at night. It's not like, why did I just give up? I must hate my life. Why do I throw in the towel? We do it for very legitimate biological reasons, including ghrelin, the hunger hormone. So years ago, now lately, after this moment I'm about to tell you about, my binging just kind of became like sugar or salt, like maybe a bunch of nachos, cheese and chips, or some popcorn. I mean, it was just like more normal, but like 10 years ago, it was like really kind of crazy. It was like just garbage disposal. So one night, I binged, and I felt so bad. I went to the bathroom and tried to throw up, and I leaned over the toilet and was like trying to throw up. I just felt awful. And I heard myself making these noises that sounded like a pig squealing. And I remember being hurt. I remember being hurt by God, and I thought, I asked him, are you trying to tell me that I'm a pig? And God said, no, I'm trying to tell you you're not. And it was in that moment that I realized, oh my gosh, I gotta quit acting like this. I gotta quit behaving like this. This is not what he wants me doing to myself or my body. So, hang on just a second for our final thought. Okay, here's my final thought. My identity. Who am I? I'm Emily. I'm a child of God. I had a pastor once that every day when his daughter got out of the car, his teenage daughter, he'd say, I want you to remember who you are and whose you are. I'm Emily and I'm his. What do I do and what don't I do? And there's a lot of answers to that, but one thing I don't do anymore is binge. I said it. I don't. It's official. October 28th, 2020. I'm burying it. Okay. Like I said, love yourself into change and just keep in mind that God is love. 1 John 4, 7 through 9. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. So, I've said it before, if you don't know Jesus, please get to know him. This book is actually 66 books. The Old Testament predicts Jesus' birth. The New Testament is all about him. So the major difference between the Old and the New is Jesus himself. So if you don't know Jesus, start with the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Get to know him. He's good. He's present. He's with us. He loves us. And he loves us too much to leave us where we are. So let's move, transition, and change. Time to bury sugar and flour. Here we go. It is really raining outside and it's getting dark. Here's our farm. There's our old farmhouse. And I've got to find a good spot to bury my drug. Whew, I'm out of breath. I've actually been digging. Okay, look. I've got a little shovel here. It went from light and sprinkling out to dark and rainy. This is quite dramatic, but that's okay. In fact, that's kind of cool. So it's like really raining. I did not find a hole to bury this stuff in. I actually dug one, a very tiny hole. I'm probably just going to put about 10 pounds of each in it and then sprinkle the rest. I guarantee you, if somebody saw me out here digging a hole, they would probably have a hard time believing I'm burying sugar and flour. Seems more like I'd be burying a dead body. I don't know. That's what I'm doing. I'm burying the old me. So here we go. Let's get this stuff in the ground. Okay, the sugar and flour has been buried. It's official. I'm wet. I'm gonna go take a shower. I've got sugar and flour on me. Here's my husband, Greg. Say hi.
Hi.
Another reason I went ahead and did it is because this weekend, in 2 days, we have our Charlotte Bull sale. So we got to get ready for that. So I thought I'd go ahead and bury the sugar and flour. He's playing Clash Royale. You almost done?
Pretty. It says I got a minute left. As long as
That's too long. Greg, guess what?
What?
I don't eat sugar or flour or binge anymore.
All right. Sounds like a good plan.
My new identity in Christ. Yay. All right, you all have a great night. There you are. Bye. Love you.